Okay, so I'm gonna start on the next lesson. So it's gonna be arrays. I'm gonna pick up where I left off. So for this, I should be covering loops and arrays. Later on, I'll cover objects. But yeah, I kind of already have an idea what to cover for these two. So just to make it simpler, just go one by one instead of trying to push everything into one video. But yeah, this will be the next step. So I'm going to cover over everything. So everything that you need to know mostly about arrays and loops, because usually arrays and loops go together. Definitely objects go with loops too, but I'll go over that as well later on. But yeah, again, arrays and loops. So I'm gonna go back to this file where I was showing you how to work with things. And the first thing that I do want to cover is, well, I think I should start with how to initialize an array. So, well, there's different ways. You can initialize an array through, and again, this can be using let or const. I'm gonna use const for now, but or actually let. It depends because again, if you want to change, make edits to your array, you might want to use let, but if you don't want to, then use const. So I'm going to use array. Um, you usually initialize, you can initialize it like this, just put values in it. Um, it should take strings, booleans, whatever you want. Usually you don't want to mix up like different data types inside the array, but you can do so. So in C sharp or other languages, usually you only have to accept one data type. So when you initialize an array, um, usually it's only gonna take either only numbers or strings or so on and so forth. Only one data type. But in this case, JavaScript is not strict, so you can put as many values as you want. So yeah, I mean, an array is kind of like a list, so it holds a number of values in order. So I mean, starting with this one, where the one is, that's index one. This one is index, or sorry, this is index zero, then one, two, three, four. So it's always starts with zero, just so you know. And how do you access this? Well, you simply I'm gonna do console.log, but let's say I want to access the number three. So instead of doing okay array at indexed three, no, it has to be minus one. So in this case, okay, position three minus one, that should be two. Again, that's because zero is zero. I mean, one is zero, two is one, index one, then three is index two. So you'll see all this prints. So I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna run it. Hmm. Oh yeah, I forgot that I needed to change this. No, actually, it's should be working. Hmm. Hmm. That's weird. Okay, well, I'll do it the old-fashioned way. But yeah, there you go. So you see three. And if you want to see the other one, let's say I want to see the last one, you can do something like array dot length minus one. And again, you're getting the length of this, which should be five, but because you're getting the index, you're going to do minus one. So if you do that, you should get five. And again, I think I'm getting ahead of myself with dot length, but it is a method. So I'll cover methods later on. But essentially, this is equal to saying, um, give me position four. So you should be getting five. Okay. And you can see right there that it's five. Okay. So that's how you access things. Um, oh, and yeah, I was saying like different ways of instantiating an array, but you can actually also start with not like that, but you can start with this and then eventually push values into it. There is a method that you'll be using a lot, push. I do use it a lot, so I'll go over it in a bit. But yeah, you can essentially put values in here. There's also the spread operator, but I'll talk about that in a bit as well. But yeah, once you initialize like this, you can put like whatever values as you want. Um, but yeah, another way to initialize it, and this is more like how you do it on what's it called? Um, on C sharp. I mean, there's more languages that start like that, but usually you have to instantiate or initialize an array with a given length. So, for example, you can do new array, and you can say I'm gonna hold 5 values. If you go over that, I mean, you're gonna have errors. As far as I know, might be wrong, but actually, I'm gonna change this because I know it's gonna give me issues. But yeah, assume that no, never mind. But let's say that I want to put 5 values. Nope. I forgot how to do this. I'm sure I can use the fill method, but yeah, let me see that fill. This should it's gonna use this array and it should fill it up with ones. Again, fill is a method, but yeah, it's gonna grab the array and just fill it up with ones. So if I run it, um, well, actually, I have to console log first. There you go. You see? Okay, so that's one way, but let's say you try to add another one. As far as I know, let's say I try to use the push method. I think because it's a const, I mean, I'm not sure, but okay, I'm gonna try it out. Okay, and you'll get better over time, but it seems like, yeah, it added, even though it's a const, it added another value next to it. But yeah, usually you don't, there's no point in doing this because usually once you initialize how many values your array is going to have, there's always a way to get around it and keep pushing values into it. But I would say there's no need. I think mostly if you start with this at least, or something that already has values, that's a good way. But I hardly use this. Everybody has their own methods, but it's up to you. You can also start it with just no values and slowly push values. But yeah, this is equivalent to this. Okay, so there's so many ways to do it, but yeah, it's up to you how you want to do it. Um, Also, since I'm talking about initializing, you can also initialize to the arrays, but I'm not going to go over them, especially because I don't use them. There might be scenarios where you might use them, but you can easily go to WS3 or just JavaScript uh, instantiate to the array, create to the array. Oh, and by the way, you can actually do this as well. So if you want to initialize to the array, again, I'm not going to go over it, but I'll leave that to you as look it up. But yeah, again, I don't require it, so there's another way. Okay, and I can break it down, but yeah, you can have it like this and then slowly start putting values into it. But again, I'm not gonna go over it. So if you learn it well how to do it with C sharp, I mean, I'm sure you can figure out how to work with 2D arrays. But again, I'm not gonna go over it. It'll be useful for some problems, some LeetCode problems, if you ever try to do LeetCode problems in JavaScript. But again, for the sake of helping out with my project, I mean, I don't require them, so I'm gonna skip it. Okay. But just putting it out there, that's all. So I already talked about how to declare arrays, how to instantiate them, and also how to access the arrays or the values in the arrays. So again, each just to iterate, I mean, each array is gonna follow an index, and you're gonna need that for the loops as well. So each, again, um, each one of these follows an index. So again, index zero, where the one is, index two, or zero, sorry, index zero where the one is, index one where the two is, index two where the three is, and so on and so forth. That's how it works. That's the right way to follow the index of the arrays. Okay, so keep that in mind. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I can move on and talk about how to, let's see, maybe modify the array. I mean, yeah, I guess I can go over that. But yeah, you can modify the array as far as I know. But again, if you do const, I don't think you can. So I'm gonna do this. And let's say I want to change the first value. So I'm gonna do R at zero, and I'm gonna change it to zero. Because I don't know. I don't like the one being there, so I'm gonna do zero. Okay. So if I do console.log R, it should return this as far as I know. But again, not sure if console will prevent it. But let's see. No. Hmm. Yeah, I guess the constant's a little different compared to variables. So, for example, if I do const string, yeah, it's not gonna let me do this, just so you know. Yeah, it's gonna give me an error. See? But yeah, for some reason with arrays, I guess that's not a problem if you change the value within the array. So again, I changed the value to the at index zero, I changed it to zero, and I got this back. But yeah, it's a constant, so I don't know. It can be confusing, but I guess with arrays, you don't have to worry too much about it. It is kind of concerning, but yeah, I guess it's something to look out for. But yeah, that's how you can change values within, depending on which index you want to change, and you can do it that way. There's more ways to do the same thing, but that's one way. Okay. Um, The next thing would be, I guess I already covered it. So how to get the length of an array. So let's say I want to get the length of this, and this is honestly something very common. You actually do use it within your loops. So how to get the length of an array. So the R length. So you have to call whatever array you want to get the length, and you're always going to use the method dot length. Okay. Once you do that, yes, it'll give you the right value. So let's say I added two more. Okay. I should be getting seven. Let me see. Okay, seven. And a good trick, like I said, if you want to get the index, um, and usually you do want to get like when you're working with loops, I guess I'll cover that in a bit. But yeah, usually if you want to work with you want to get the last index, you just do like that. Because again, I mean, it might be seven elements, but again, the indexes start from zero. So the last index should be whatever the length is minus one. So in this case, it should be six. Okay. All right. And you'll see right here. Okay. So that's the basics of using the length. You'll be using it a lot. So just remember how to use it. Um, then I'll go ahead and cover some of the methods. So I already covered like the push method, but again, push just pushes something towards the end. So if I want to push, let's say R. dot push and push number 8. Yeah, we might as well just follow the sequence. Let's do until 10. And you'll see that it's going to show all of those. So these at the end. So run it and you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. That's how the push works. So it pushes whatever element you want to push towards the end. And again, you can even put like a string, and that's a string. Yeah, so it'll pop up. So it's not as strict as other languages, but I think it's always best to just keep one data type just to make sure it's not confusing. Okay, when you're dealing with arrays. The next method, pop. So I'm going to use pop, and what it does, it removes the last element. So whatever is towards the end is going to remove that. So if I do r.pop, you'll see that I should be removing this, the 10th right here. So I'm going to do that, and you'll see that it's gone. The 10 is gone. And you can also assign it to like a variable. So for example, const last element is pop. And let's say you want to get that last element, and a lot of times you'll be using this method, and maybe you want to get the last element. You want to save it somewhere before you pop it because otherwise it disappears. So yes, you'll see that you got the number 10. So this is a good way to actually uh, pop an element towards the end and put it within an array. Okay, because sometimes you'll be needing that last element. So definitely when you do leak code questions, this is something useful that you'll be needing. Okay, but yeah, that's simple. The next thing would be going over shift. So what shift does is unlike, or actually maybe I should start with on shift. So how to add it in the beginning. So far we've been adding from the end. So what I'm gonna do is add from the beginning. So how do I do that? Well, I'm gonna call again the array, and I'm gonna use on shift, and I'm gonna append the 0. Okay. So you'll be seeing instead of 1 being the first one, 0 is gonna be the first one. See? So 0 is appended, and I can keep going. I can do R, and I'm going to put -1. Okay. And you'll see that it keeps adding towards the beginning. Okay. You can see right here. So if I want to remove that 1 from the beginning, kind of like pop, in this case, you use shift. So if I do r.shift, you'll see that, yeah, the -1 is gone. Okay. So again, these are one of the most useful methods that you'll be dealing with arrays. There are more methods out there that maybe I don't even use, but yeah, I'll show you how to look them up. Usually you want to use MDN. W3 Schools also has information about it, so either or, but let's say I want to use Pop JavaScript. And if you see MDN, that's the best source to go because it'll show you, you know, basic examples, and you can even run this and mess with this. Like whatever you want to do, just to practice. I'll come back to this in a bit, but yeah, let's see. Let me move on to the next one. So I already talked about shift on shift. The next one that I want to talk about will be splice and slice. So splice, I think for slice and splice, I'll use this one instead. Let's see. Splice. Because sometimes they provide like better examples, but the difference, what splice does is that it adds or removes elements at a specific index. So once you start in an index, you can delete as many elements as you want. Okay. Oh, so I forgot. Each value that's in here with stored in the array is an element. Usually you'll hear that a lot. But yeah, let's say that right here it says that it's in sort in index one. So you're gonna do you have this array const months, and it's missing February. So you're what are you gonna do? You want to add the February, and so you're gonna do I think hmm, right here it says how it works. So there's different ways, but yeah, start, delete count, and item. So you were using this one for the first one. So what you're doing is that months.splice, you're going to start at one. So 0, 1, starting from here. And you're going to add, mm, well, yeah, delete count. So right here, basically the zero is, am I going to delete something? No, I just want to add an item. So the third argument has to be an item. So you do, okay, starting at one, I'm not going to delete anything, but I'm going to add February. So if you run it, you'll see that it didn't delete March. It just pushed within that index February and it pushed the rest forward. But let's say I want to, yeah, I'm going to delete March because I don't need it for whatever reason. Then it's just going to be January, February, April, and June. That's because I started here at March. So March is index one currently. So I'm going to delete one and then push February. Okay. You can see right here. But let's say I want to delete all of them. So let's say, okay, I want to delete three. So I'm gonna do that. And I'm just gonna push February. So it should be January and February. You can see right here. But yeah, there's just different ways of using it. So let's see. You can do this with a splice with only start. Let's see. I mean, this is doing the same thing. So, okay. Let's say I have this. I'm just gonna keep one, to be honest. And let's say I want to it start, well, starting at index one. What it's saying, as far as I know, it's gonna start from here and it's gonna delete all of them. So all I'm gonna have left is generate. So this is what this does. Okay. So I'm gonna run it and uh, huh. I thought I remembered that if you put like whatever index, it'll delete the rest. But let's see. Remainder. Mm, oh, I forgot. Never mind. Because yeah. I should leave this. Sorry, I was missing the console dot log, but yeah. I'm gonna do starting from one, and what it's gonna do is delete all, starting at one, it's gonna delete all of them, so you'll see it. See? If I want to start at two, should start at April. Okay. So you see? But again, you can follow like things as, these examples, just gotta mess with it. But yeah, let's say I'm gonna go over this. And I did want to delete just a count. I'm not going to add any items. So I want to delete only two. I started one and I want to delete two. So I'm going to have left is January and June. So I'm going to do this. Started index one, delete two. Don't remove that. And you see that I have January and June. Okay. And you can keep messing with these. So it's just a matter of, reading through this. But yeah, usually you're going to be, if you use JavaScript, this is what's mainly used because it gives you an example, a demo, and you can try many examples as much as you want. And you can use this editor and run it as much as you want. You can reset it back if you want. But yeah, you want to usually follow the syntax, and eventually that's how you get better. and you can read over this, but usually I always kind of just look at the syntax, mess around, and that's how I learn things. It's up to you if you want to read the rest. Usually it's useful, but it's up to you. Okay, gives you more examples. Um, the next one that I want to go over is slice. So it is pretty similar to splice, but the difference is that it doesn't remove anything. It just creates a copy of your array. So sometimes you just want to delete just copy uh, an array, and sometimes you just want to start from a particular order. So mm, well, if you just use slice, let's say I'm going to delete all this console.log const and call a new R. And I'm going to copy animals. So I'm going to do animals dot slice, and it should return the same thing. Okay, new R. And it's going to return the same thing. I'm not printing animals. I'm not printing the animals array. I'm printing the new R. So you'll see that it's the same thing. If I were to do animals as well, you'll see that they're both equivalent. So there's times when you do want to make copies, but there are scenarios. So just keep in mind this one. Slice.start if you want to start from a particular order. So let's say hmm, let's say I started from one, and let's see, and next one. So I should start from Bison. What's gonna do is that it starts from index one, and it only gets a copy of it. Again, it doesn't change anything. Animals still the same, as you can see right here. So it grabs a copy and you can do whatever you want with that copy. So in this case, animals.slice at one, you start at one and you just copy from here to here and you create your own a new array within this position towards the end. Now let's say that I only want uh, bison and duck. So I have to do, let's see, the end has to be the index. Where do I want to stop? So let's say I want to stop duck. So I have to do, okay, 0, 1, 2, 3. So I have to do 1, 2, 3. And I think it'll work. Let's see. No, never mind. Okay. So the end has to be plus 1. So if I want to stop at duck, that should be index 3. I have to do a plus 1. So 3 plus 1 equals 4. Okay. And that's how you include it. I always get this confused. So you want to make sure that you practice. You can practice things how to use this in case you forget. But yeah, usually, you know, these are the main ones that you use for slides. Again, you'll be using them eventually, but it just depends on the scenario. But yeah, this is how you can get like a copy of an array. So you can do like a full copy. You can start at a particular position, or you can get like a copy from one position to another. And again, the starting point is exactly where you want to start. But if you do the last element, depending where you want to stop, you always have to do whatever index that is plus one. And that's how you get your copy of your array, exactly what elements you want. Okay. So big difference between slice and splice. So splice, you usually don't make a copy. You directly affect the array that you're working on. But slice, you just make your own copy, and from there, you can add whatever you want. So that way, usually you want to use slice whenever you don't want to affect the original array. But splice, you usually do affect the original array. Just that's the main key difference. Okay. Um, oh, and also kind of slice lets you add and or delete. I mean, you can do it with slice too, but yeah, you have it'll have its own uses. You'll figure out your own uses as you go. Okay. The next thing that I want to cover, let's see. I think we're gonna have to cover other methods later on, but I want to cover those essential ones. So I'm gonna stop at loops and then talk about different methods out there just to make it easy. But yeah, I'm gonna end it with loops. So I'm gonna go back to my editor. So I'm gonna start with the for loop, okay? And this is the syntax, and I'll explain it. Let me just write it down. Let's say I want to print a list of array. No, it's not that. Sorry. Let's say I want to print that out. So I'm going to change this. So remember the use of file length. Actually, I'm going to use the console log, but this is not what I'm going to print. I'm going to print every element right here. I'm going to clear this real quick. Mm. As you can see, I printed all the elements by using the for loop. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So just to give you an idea what it's doing, so you have to understand each one of these. So once you see the semicolon, you're doing three different things. So you always have to follow this order because otherwise it's not going to work. You can't put the I plus plus, elsewhere, like on the left. This has to be the order. But let me start with the beginning. So right here where you see let dot at I, you can name this whatever you want. You can name it start, whatever, but usually or you can name it index. Usually it pertains to the index, so most of the for loops start with I, but you can name it whatever you want. But what this is saying is that you're starting at zero, and then you're looping through the whole array. Basically, you're going to use an array, and what this is doing right here. So starting zero, my I started at zero. So while um, array dot length, I mean, what it's saying is that um, I'm trying to figure out how to explain it, but this is basically what this is saying is that you start at zero, and and you only go up until you reach dot length. So you'll start at zero, but then you tell it that okay, um, it stopped where dot length is, so it only runs until dot length. So in this case, it should be five. But yeah, it's gonna run it until you reach five elements. So it's gonna iterate five times, and yeah, every time you iterate, um, do one iteration, one loop. What this is gonna do is that it's gonna increment your index by one. So it started zero. It looks for this condition, and this determines whether you can keep looping or not. And this just increments. So once it increments to five, eventually it stops. So if I were to put it like something like here, like a breakpoint, I'm gonna go ahead and run it, and you'll see. Let's see. Okay, right now index is zero. You'll see it right here. So I'm gonna step over it. Okay. I don't know why it's not printing. It's weird. Let me fix this real quick. No, actually gonna stop it. Okay, so I'm gonna remove this. Let me run it again. Yeah, okay, it's printed. I don't know why it wasn't printed, but yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna clear this out. Well, I don't have to clear it out, but let's see. I'm gonna put my breakpoint here. So again, I start the loop, and it's zero, I'm good because of this condition. So I'm gonna go ahead and run it. It prints one, so it checks again. It does increments by one, so you'll see it right here. So it goes by one, and it's gonna keep doing the same thing. So because we're telling right here to stop it when we get to array.length, it's gonna keep going until it falls under this condition. So you see that it's incrementing by two, and it should stop once it hits five, by the way. And keep looking at the left. But yeah, this should be the last one. So it's gonna print five. So error reach five. So while I is less than array down length, so it already reached um, error reached this condition. So array down length is five. So once it reaches this, then it stops. Okay, and it just stopped. It just exited. Okay. So yeah, I mean that's the best way. But yeah, usually you want to follow this convention. You don't want to use. I mean, you could use this, but then it's gonna say four. I think this is kind of confusing, but let's say you put the wrong one, and I'm gonna step over this right here. Like if you put something else, a larger number, when to stop. I mean, this is gonna, start printing undefined. I mean, I could put like more, and you'll have the same error. So yeah, usually when you want to print an array, you want to do r dot length, and you don't have to do minus because again, you're already, this is following the index already. So as long as you do I minus I is less than array dot length, you'll follow the condition, you print whatever you need. Okay. You can do it the same way. So let's say if I want to count down, I can do this. I can reverse it. And I'm gonna reverse this. Um, so what this is saying is that, okay, I'm gonna start let I start r dot length. And then this one, yeah, I should do minus one. But yeah, what it's saying is that if I is more than zero, then stop. And then I'm gonna keep incrementing. So if I run it, oh sorry, it's not R, it's array. You can see the results. So I'm incrementing. Oops, what did I do? Oh, stop right there. Okay, I had it wrong. But yeah, I think I keep getting confused about this. It's just I don't usually use decrements, but yeah, just gotta be careful. Because you do want to count zero probably, so let's see. If I were to do more, I'm just gonna start getting undefined. Yeah. So there's so many ways to write this, but basically what I'm saying is that, okay, we're gonna decrement first of all. But yeah, we're gonna start at the last index. So again, right here, I do use a minus one because again, the index when I'm referring to the index, if I'm going to refer to the last element, then I have to do array.length, whatever this is called, -1. So that way I can start here. Because otherwise, if I do like this, then you're going to get an undefined. Yeah, so you just gotta, always debug, make sure that you have the right logic. Because again, I didn't get the right logic right now, but I always test. I always make sure to look at my debug console to make sure I have things right. Because if I don't, then yeah, that's how you create bugs. So again, because I don't use, I don't decrement usually. I always go forward. Yeah, sometimes I mess this up, but yeah, for here, you need the -1 so that you can tell, okay, start at the last index specifically, which should be 4. And then what it's saying right here, this condition stop when while I is more than -1. So once it hits 0, index 0, it's fine. But once it hits -1, then it tells the program stop. Okay, so if we run it again, you'll see this. So I started 4. Okay, I printed 5. So it's 3. Okay, gonna keep printing. Keep looking at the left and the bottom. 2, index 2, index 1. And again, once I reach 0, it's still gonna print it because I'm still not at -1. So I'm gonna print um, the 1. So I already did. And now I am in index 1. I'm right here. So I already reached this condition, so stop. And then it just exited. Okay. And that's how it works. But again, usually there are times when you use the increment, the decrement, sometimes you don't. But that's fine. It's up to you. Now, there's a different way to go forward. So there's two methods. I usually use the method called map, but you can also use for each. So um, going forward with, say, I'm gonna write it from the beginning. So again, okay. So I'm gonna use array for each, and this is actually the same thing. And it's up to you what you want to use, but yeah, you'll be seeing. I guess I'll stop here. So I put a breakpoint. But yeah, you'll see that I started with this and then it printed the same thing. So you can use either or. So what this is saying is that for each kind of does the same, it does the same thing. It's just like you're just using the method, so that way you're shortening the same thing. And then what it's doing is that okay, for each it needs to accept um well, it's always going to start with this. So these are error function. I mean, it's initializing this with an error function. So within the for each, basically it should be written like this. Array. Yeah. Now that I think about it, the for each it has to accept what's called a callback. I'll go over callback once I touch functions, but just so you know, yeah, I'm not going to go over deep into this, but this is essentially using this other method or function inside, and then we're telling it, okay, I'm gonna get the argument of element. So again, it refers to the elements here. So whatever element I start with, okay, inside every time within each element, all I want to do is just console.log that element. So that's why it returns the same thing. So again, it uses a callback, but again, I'm not going to go over it. But essentially, it's like this. The only thing is that you gotta add something here. You have to add a callback. Again, I'll go over that in a bit. But there's another way to do this, which also you'll use it a lot. Dot map, and it's the same thing. I usually use more map than for each, but to each their own. So I'm gonna do the same thing. So I'm gonna comment this and hmm, oh sorry, I shouldn't have comment that out. Yeah, need this. And you'll see that it's the same thing. Okay. So it's up to you, but I just want to show you better ways of instead of doing the for loop, this is the better way, or this one. Again, I use this one more, but it's up to you. But again, I'll go over callbacks in a bit later on. I'll write it down here. Callbacks. But yeah, I mean, if you want to learn more about for each or map, you can go here. Whichever, I'm going to go with the map one, but you can also find the other one. And it tells you the same thing. It kind of like elaborates a little bit more. But yeah, you can read through this as well. But it's literally doing the for each or the for loop. So you can see right here, do have 14916. Right here, it's actually using a callback, but it's actually gonna multiply by two. So when you console dot log to the array, it's gonna return okay whatever this value is times two. So it's 2, 8, 18, 32. So just gotta experiment with it. But yeah, I'll go over callbacks in a bit. So just stay tuned. For now, I think I already covered all the for loops or all the loops that I needed. I mean, yes, I guess I'll cover over while loops since I'm at it, but that should be the last thing. Um, so remember how I did the negative? So I was decrementing. Well, there's other ways to do it. So let's see. Let's say like, well, with the while loop, you don't really you want to use what? You don't define your index. You really don't define your index here. So I'm gonna do and start at 4. I'm gonna do while I is more or equal to 0. So that way I don't have to do -1. Okay, so it's the same thing. But yeah, if I do reach to 0, what this condition is saying is that if I reach 0, I'll still run it. But once I decrement and I'm not at 0 anymore, then yeah, I'm gonna stop running this. So you can see right here that I'm gonna console log everything. But yeah, I have this decrement, so it's the same thing. So there's different ways to use the while loops, but yeah, it'll do the countdown. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Now, other ways you can do it, you can do it different ways, but let's say you had a menu. I'm going to use ChatGPT or not ChatGPT, sorry. I'm going to use Copilot. So mm, create a math menu and while so that's not exactly what I want. Okay, well, whatever. Let's see if it does what I want it to do. Yeah. Oh my God. So you don't have to understand the percent. I guess I should have covered the percents, how to switch. I guess I'll cover it later on. But yeah, the percent is kind of like the parse methods from C sharp. So yeah, but I don't worry about it. Don't worry about it at all. Um, Actually, now that I think about it, I'm not sure if this overrun prompt is not defined. Yeah. Yeah, the thing is like JavaScript usually you don't receive input from a terminal. You usually receive it from like an input field. So when you're putting, let's say, filling a form, like this is an input field, and then you like press accept or whatever, submit. That's there's ways to get this input. But yeah, you don't usually ask the user, give me the input through here. So yeah, it's not gonna do that. But yeah, usually you get the input from there, from the DOM element, from the HTML element, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, let's say that mm, I guess I can delete some of this. Okay, I'm gonna delete this because again, I'm not prompting anything. Okay, so right now the choice is zero. If I run it, oops, no, no, stop, stop. Yeah, it's this is not a good idea. So usually you do want to break after it. Hmm. Yeah, now I think about it, you usually don't want to use the while loops within web development. Now that I think about it, you usually don't because otherwise it's going to create these infinite loops. And because the input way to get things it's different. It's not like you're going to do console dot. You're not doing console dot write read line. Like you don't do that. Um, In C, Java, usually you have like a read line method where you get the input, but usually it's very different with making web pages or app, or if you're making apps, you have to get the app from the actual elements. So it's called the input element. So let's see, input element or input tag. But yeah, this is an input tag. Okay. So there's ways to get this. So once you get the submit, you'll get them. But usually, what you do with that information, I mean, yeah, you can run for loops or whatever sometimes, but usually you won't use a while loop because the while loops they keep running until you put a stop. So, for example, um, let me run this again. Let's say there was a prompt. I mean, as far as I know, I mean, I guess I can. probably use the library to accept the prompt, but it's not a good idea. But yeah, again, you don't prompt the user that way. Like you're not gonna get a prompt this way. So what this is doing is that because I'm not getting any prompt and I only have it zero, it's gonna keep running forever. But let's say if I put five, I mean automatically um, it's just gonna exit afterwards. So if I run it, hmm, yeah, choice was zero. So while it does not equal zero, then don't even run anything. So it didn't even run anything. But yeah, as long as this is not changing, yeah, uh, I mean, literally, you're just gonna either not do anything or run an infinite loop, which you don't want, because otherwise your computer or your program is gonna crash. So again, while loops, even though you'll use them for C sharp or other languages, yes, with JavaScript you don't use them, so don't use them. Don't worry about it. You're mainly gonna use the for loops, or the for each or the for map. Okay, that's it. Um, the next thing I'll talk about of loops will be with objects, and there's different ways uh, to loop over objects. So I'll talk about that in a bit, but that objects will be something important as well. So I think on the next lesson, I'm gonna go over some other methods because I think some of these I haven't covered. I only covered like the basics. Still have to go over certain sorting, filter, other ones that you'll be using a lot. So, but yeah, move once I move on to that, once I finish this, then I'll go ahead and go over objects, and then lastly I'll go over functions. You won't be using classes, by the way. So in case you're wondering, you don't. And JavaScript, you just really don't need to use them. But yeah. And I'll tell you why you usually don't use classes. But yeah, then I'll cover this. I guess I forgot to cover it, but I think it's important since you saw an example of parsnets. But yeah, I'll be doing that. So I'm gonna stop here. In case you have any questions, again, just feel free to ask. I'll point you to the right direction, but hopefully this kind of serve you as a guidance on what to do or how to get understand JavaScript a little bit better. Okay, so that'll be all. Just stay tuned for the next one. Okay, bye.